At the center of the universe, at the border between the light and the dark, stands Castle Grayskull. For countless ages, the heroes of Grayskull have defended the universe against the forces of evil. Walk through the Hall of Living Pictures and learn the history and mystery of the Masters of the Universe. Dive deep into the mythology of Eternia, Etheria, and more. For those who know the stories of Grayskull will come the power. The power to be supreme. The power to be all-knowing. The power to be Legends of Grayskull.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 14 of Legends of Grayskull, the fan podcast where we discuss the history, the mystery, the magic, and mythology of He-Man, She-Ra, Eternia, Etheria, Primus, Nordor, new adventures, old adventures, all of the adventures, even Netflix.
Woohoo, Netflix.
And I am Matthew Dooch. I'm here with Sean Scavarna. Sean, how are we doing tonight?
I have questions.
Do you?
I have many questions.
We'll get to those. I am just going to pull up my YouTube here, so in case anybody pops in, I can see them.
Woohoo! We are live, peeps.
We are so live. It is unbelievable.
I'm trying to adjust myself. Okay, I'm over here. There we go.
You're good.
I need marks on the floor. You'd think that there would be by now.
You need to get a chair already. You need to sit down, take a load off, and...
You know what? They always talk about artists having to have pain for their work, and this is, my calves might be sore by the end of this, but it's well worth it to discuss the Masters and She-Ra, Netflix and everything else. So
Netflix and everything. Everything.
It's been an interesting week because, for us having our first taste of anything, what I would consider new wave Masters or Princess of Power in this case, we got to finish it versus the last time around when anything was released, we didn't get to finish it properly. So at least there was that. That's new compared to how 2000X ended.
Compared to 2000X. However, we did have New Adventures, which did have an ending. So
I know, but that was before that. So that's the thing. It's like we're actually getting somewhere now.
We are
getting the ending.
So today we will be discussing Netflix's version of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power.
Princesses of Power.
And you know what? It's been a long and wild ride. This has been 5 seasons, which
E-Man doesn't like that we're talking about She-Ra. Don't forget I'm here. Oh, sorry. Every time that comes in, it amuses me.
It's and it's Netflix seasons, so 5 seasons, but only 3 of those were like half seasons, right?
Yeah, well, I think it was season 2 and 3 were split in half.
Okay,
so we had 7 and 7, if I remember right, or 7 and 8 or whatever.
Yeah, it's like 39, 50 episodes.
Mm-hmm. Somewhere around there.
So, once again, unfortunately, more than 2000X, but the shortest episodes of a series so far. And really, you gotta look at episodes, because that first run syndication of Filmation, it only had 2 seasons, but you're talking, 130 episodes. So, you can't really compare seasons. It's a whole different time,
Definitely. And, you got the binging, and I know, unfortunately, for both of us, we basically binged the heck out of this final season to try to do what we needed to. I had to binge it because of Council of the First Ones last week where we covered some of this, and you had to binge it going into this week.
Yeah, for us.
I know you'd rather take your time, but unfortunately
I
now
do.
you have a podcast.
Well, you know what though, and let's start there because we brought this up before. Uh, when we talked about the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and all that. Here again, it's yes, we wanted to cover it on the podcast, so that's what gave me that push to finish it up. But at the same time, there's also the spoiler fear, like
Yeah.
heading through Facebook, the different. Like I said, even when I open up Google Chrome, it'll throw articles out there for me, and a lot of them are He-Man and She-Ra related. I don't know. My browser history says that I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that aspect of it too, where it's like, okay, either I do it now or it's going to be spoiled for me,
Yeah.
and that's basically your two options. That goes for just about anything. The Marvel movies, you better see that within the first couple weeks because after that, people are just like, okay, we're talking about it, and
Yep.
I mean, we're talking about. We're not even throwing spoiler tags. We're just going to throw stuff out there that's like, oh look, this spoils everything for you.
Yeah, I think the only one that managed to escape that was Endgame.
Right.
I remember the directors actually saying, "Let everybody have the first 2 weeks and don't post anything, and then after that point, you're fair game because most people that wanted to see it got to see it."
Well,
in the case of Netflix, it's like you're open game from 12:01 in the morning on.
Right.
The day it's released, because good luck, if you're on social media in any way, shape, or form for that first couple days. So
absolutely, and that's another detriment in my opinion, that you can't just take it as you will. It's because most people did that. Even people that weren't cramming for a podcast were sitting down and like, okay, here's the final season, 13 episodes. By it pops on at 12:01. By 8 a.m. I'm done.
mm-hmm.
And I don't know. To me, that's not as satisfying. And I think that adds to some of the stuff that we'll get in now, to where, we've talked a lot this week, and as much as I like talking to Sean, that usually we kind of do hands off, like whatever we're discussing on the podcast normally behind the scenes is like we're not discussing that. Don't bring it up, But we had such feelings about this that even in private we were really talking a lot about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I think part of that feel is you have to binge this, and I think that's a detriment because I don't feel that a season earns all its arcs and its drama when you're sitting there just pounding it out.
No, I mean, if you had to take a pop quiz after you're done watching all 13 episodes,
mm-hmm.
you're not going to remember probably 60% of what you watched. I mean, to be honest,
Right.
I haven't been able to go back and watch it the whole way through since the weekend, and
mm-hmm.
that's just I don't have that ability right now. I'm just doing a bunch of other stuff. But like, I remember bits and pieces that affected me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember every little tiny tidbit or morsel of the story at this point. And unfortunately, that's the age we're in. And it does make me just go like, well, how is this new revelation going to work? How is the other new CGI He-Man and the Masters going to work? And, it's a blip on the radar for a week, and then boom, you're off and running to the next thing. And
I will say that too. I still took longer. I did not finish this until, well, yesterday, right? I think yesterday I messaged you, said I finished.
Yeah, yesterday.
So I didn't finish it till yesterday. And even then, so when I was done, I did do a little search around Facebook, like, hey, is any, just looking for threads and discussion and everything. And I found some stuff from like the day of that it dropped and like up to the weekend. And then after that, like everything just stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought this up before. This is a very real concern here that, uh, you know, that it's just, it doesn't, especially with a movie, like Netflix just does not have the same impact. And it's shown here. Even this show that's so highly rated, highly regarded, has a very enthusiastic fan base. Basically you've got less than a week and then it's out of the news cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
is this what we need here going forward? Is this
I
gonna go into like actually bringing it back and taking care of, you know, helping the toys sell and everything else that we would like to get out of this?
mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they fumbled on the toys for this to begin with.
That
I mean,
did well, yes, they
we
did.
we had that talk the other day. I mean, that like they released dolls, and Super Seven got to release, I guess, what were they, 5 or 6 inch figures,
Right.
and it was only for She-Ra and Catra, and boom, that was all you heard. And one of the last times I was in Target before all hell broke loose with the rest of the world, all the dolls were on clearance.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, there was a part of me going, maybe I'll buy one of them for my daughter. And at the same time, I'm just like, I'm not worried about this right now. And, I'll move on with something else and see what happens later. So I'm completely lost on how they even chose to do anything for this show. I mean, it was, there is a certain amount of like, Troll Hunters had some toys out. I remember that. And Troll Hunters was done.
Right.
But there were toys on the shelves then, and it done as in, okay, all the show was done, but it was still on Netflix,
Right. And it always is, but
yeah, but it's the whole the heat was gone of it because it wasn't something that was creating something
right.
new each 6 months or whatever, and Voltron.
Yeah.
Voltron fell flat when it launched.
Mm-hmm.
Like you had the lions and stuff, and you could create Voltron and all that, but you saw those in clearance faster than most things, and I was a little shocked by that when it came out. So I'm a little lost at how they're going to do this kind of stuff because of Netflix being the way they're showing these things now, because it feels like people would rather just go and binge the episodes than worry about a toy. And it's like there's a disconnect now in this generation compared to when we were kids. Maybe it was the commercials where the commercials hammered home to us in the middle of other shows. By the way, you might be watching He-Man, but Transformers is there. By the way, you're watching G.I. Joe, but He-Man's there. And it was like you constantly had this bombarding force for the commercials, at least. But again, we are in a new age. There's just no way around this. And in some ways it's interesting, and in other ways it's sad. That's just the way I look at it nowadays.
Well, and I will say from my own, personal experience, and most of the stuff that we watch is we don't watch much live. Even my kids don't. I mean, that's just the way it is now.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that my son's been into so far was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first Nickelodeon series, the good one.
Oh, I was gonna say the good one.
Not that Rise thing that's on now, and that's the thing. It's like, and even though, I mean, I get what you're saying about the commercials, but even that, he watched that without the commercials. But it was still just an episode. It was a new episode a week. It was reruns every day. It was, like, or we could go on demand, and there was always reruns.
Yeah.
So you could always stream it. But then at the same time, he could always, jump back and every week there was a new episode, and that's been the biggest thing that he's really been into so far. So I still hold to it that there is something about releasing these things, episodically, an episode a week, whatever, holding something and getting people talking about it. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I mean, all these big phenomenon shows, even if you want to go out of the cartoon realm, Lost, Grey's Anatomy, all these long running shows, it's because everyone's talking about it every week. You've got a whole week of going around your office, going around, the house, talking to your wife, husband, whatever, and going, hey, what do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to do here? And all that's lost with Netflix shows because, you just you wait the 30 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever it is now, and the next episode loads up. And there's no drama. There's no how are they going to get out of this? There's no I don't know. It's not as impressionable to me. But
yeah, and especially if you're like me and my wife where Stranger Things was the one where we both were like, we're watching this together when we could sit down. So it would be like a once a week, maybe twice a week thing where we try to do maybe 2 or 3 episodes a night, and then we'd call it a night because we just had to get we had to go to bed and get the kids up in the morning. So people like us, it's like that's where the appeal is, I think, for some of this Netflix stuff is, oh, you're not going to binge the whole thing. You got a couple episodes here and there, and you're going to take maybe a month to get through it. And there's other people out there where it's like, no, they just go for it the minute that it's uploaded, and boom, the next thing you know, there's already spoilers when you just go on Facebook the next morning, And
that's my biggest thing with it. It's like, what?
I don't blame you there.
But.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, we got dead air because we both decided to drink at the same time.
Well, it's fine. I was agreeing with you. I figured I'd take a drink more. No, but it's true. Like you basically have to go radio silent on social media for like a month if you don't catch it within the first like 48 hours. And
it's a shame. I think it is, but. But that's Netflix as a whole. Let's get down to brass tacks here. So, Netflix She-Ra premiered... Oh, God, I should have looked that up. When did it premiere? It was, what, 3 years ago?
I want to say 2018, but maybe it was 2017.
2018 sounds right. We're going to go 2018. Any of you in the chat room want to disagree with us, please let us know. I'm just seeing me there. Which is fine, because we did not publicize this. Next week, and I'll talk about more at the end of the next week, we're doing a publicized live. This is our test run. So in case it screwed up, we wouldn't have a bunch of people going, where are you guys? But anyways, yes, it's, there's about 2 seasons a year or so.
Yeah.
So yeah, like 2017, 2018. I remember it was September, because it was right around the time school was starting. That I do remember. And basically, so we're following the adventures of Adora on Etheria. Well, they called it a reboot. We'll get more into that later. And it's just following the adventures of Adora as she rebels from the evil horde and finds a group of people that she can trust and try and right the wrongs that are created by the horde, which has enslaved Etheria. So, on the surface, the basic She-Ra premise that we've known. Couple key differences is they cannot tie this into He-Man because DreamWorks decided not to work out a deal with Mattel here. To do it all. So basically, it's DreamWorks working because they right now DreamWorks owns the Filmation library, the back catalog. So they could only use the characters from the original cartoon, minus the one that's also appeared in Masters of the Universe. Yes, it's weird. Don't ask. It's really not even all the details have ever been made public. You think the Filmation rights in and of themselves are hard? This is even harder. So, basically, you have like all the princesses, and basically the evil horde is neutered. Just they're missing most of their key members. It's down to Scorpia, Catra, Shadow Weaver, Hordak, and Imp. Like, that's your evil horde at its essence. There's some minor trooper characters and other guys, but basically your big bad horde is those few people.
Yep.
And we followed her adventures at finding the sword without He-Man being a part of it, and her learning to trust Glimmer and Bo and the Great Rebellion and all that. And I think most people who are watching this are probably pretty familiar with the plot because it goes here, there, it goes everywhere. And the thing, we were having a really hard time deciding what exactly we were going to discuss. We knew we wanted to do Netflix She-Ra because the final season's starting, and it's been a pretty big era for, here. 5 seasons, a good fan base, toys, even though they didn't seem to last very long. It's not just a footnote in the history. There was something here. And we bounced back and forth, and then with us both finishing up the final season and having so much to talk about, we figured, well, we're going to concentrate mainly on the final season here today. And then, later down the road, we can go back and get back to our regular format of, picking apart an episode, basically. But but for today, we're basically going to focus on this final season. So if you haven't kept up to this point, probably go watch those. So it makes more sense. I will say real quick that I did like the continuity in this series. I thought they did a good job of having a continuous story that's being told that lends itself very well to the binginess. I'm not gonna say it was necessarily a good story, but it was a continuous story. It made it from beginning to end, and that was one of the highlights of this show for me.
Okay. Yeah, I would say I was actually thinking about pluses and minuses, pros and cons. For me, the storytelling is more, as in the continuity and stuff. That is way more in line with what I want to see for newer stuff from here out. With anything, obviously, Revelation, the new He-Man cartoon, that's the CGI one. That is way more in the vein of what I want to see because we've already done the other stuff, and 2000X was a step in that direction. And yes, I know New Adventures also step in that direction as well. But from here out, this is how I want to hear. This is how I want the storytelling to go. And let's see, pluses. The pluses going into this to make me excited for a final season. The mysteries.
Yes.
That they started in the first 4 seasons were things where I genuinely was invested at this point going, well, how are they going to work all this stuff out? We have hints at fan things like, what's attorney mean? This password she keeps using and all this stuff. What does it mean when she raises her sword and says, for the honor of Grayskull? What is Madame Raz, or Raz as they call her now? What is her deal? Because in previous seasons, we've seen her whole time stream is wonky. I think it's called chronodysplasia or something like that. I looked it up last night. I was trying to remember the actual term.
I would just call it the Merlin thing because that was one of the components of Merlin the Wizard. Like his time ran different from everybody else's, and so that's why he always seemed like he knew the future. It's like because he'd already lived the future before they did,
So yeah, that was very interesting to me, and I think one of the ones that I know you and I were both curious about was with her at the end of season 4 breaking her sword of protection, and her losing the bond to She-Ra, and now she's just Adora. How are they going to solve this? Because for a final season, you gotta have She-Ra. There's no way around that. She has to be there in her own show for the final season.
And that at the same time she's breaking her sword and giving up the power, Horde Prime is invading, and they're taking back out Despondos into the universe where Horde Prime can find them, and he's circling Etheria. It's like,
yep.
You know what? I will give it that. The end of season 4 is a very tight, very compelling story. And I do want to say hi there. I did just see a couple numbers pop up in the chat. We are live right now, guys. So if you're in the chat, drop us a line so we know who you are. Yeah, drop us a line. We can see you. So thanks for tuning us
Throw
out.
comments
we're
at
talking
us.
about Netflix She-Ra, so strap in.
Yeah.
But yes, the end of season 4 was very nice. I thought it was really well put together. You finally got somewhere. You finally got some answers. You found out that Etheria's been stuck in Despondos this whole time, and you got a little bit of the Mara backstory, which again, I don't like the predecessors. I don't think that's any surprise to anybody here. So I don't care for the She-Ra before the She-Ra concept, no matter how they had done it. Like, I don't care for the He-Man before He-Man. It just it muddies it. It muddies it, and it makes them not as special. But that's on me. But it finally seemed like we were gonna get some answers, and I for one was actually excited to see where it was headed to.
And you and me and my daughter. My daughter, when we finished season 4,
my kids as well. My kids have been watching it too, and they've been enjoying it more than I have. I will put it out there. There's been lots of ups and downs. For every hero episode you get a Princess Prom episode.
That's true. That's very true.
There's lots of filler episodes in this where just like, why are we even wasting time on this? But that might just be my old man view of it. I don't know.
No, I agree with that too. And I'm somebody that's a little more liberal about this show than others. And even I'm like, why are we wasting time on this when you have 13 episodes to finish this out? And there's still questions.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So now we're in the final season. So you're thinking, okay, this is it. Because like I said, the back half of season 4 was very solid. And it felt like it's all rushing towards this end. And so so right off the bat, you're like, okay, this is going to be it. This is going to be everything to the end, everything to the finale, which is obviously going to be a big battle between the Rebellion and Horde Prime. I mean, we know that. Going into season 5, I'm going, okay, so how does Adora get her sword back? How does she, either reforge it or, whatever, the first ones heal it, because that happened in, Filmation too, where she cracked the sword and the first ones had to repair it. And, from here on out, this is probably about the last moment here, guys. If you don't want it to get spoiled, leave. Leave now. Go. We appreciate you, but just go. And wow, what a letdown. The filler episodes in this season are, I won't say some of the worst, but they were the hardest to sit through, knowing, like, okay, you ended this with, like, Glimmer and Catra and Horde Prime's ship. Adora broke the sword. Like, Horde Prime's invading. And we're spending an entire episode in an underwater bar.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the episode where I was just like, I don't need this right here. The momentum is completely shot because everything leading up to this point is focused on this ending. Right. And then all of a sudden we take this detour and I'm like, this for me was worse than Princess Prom for that reason in some ways. I won't lie.
And this is the perils of Peekaboo. And the whole episode was a setup to meet Peekaboo. They had to go find Peekaboo because they were getting worried. Adora. And yes, we're gonna jump all over the season. That's just the only way it is. They're trying to find Peekaboo so that he can use his farsight powers to see how the rescue mission is going with Adora and Bo and Entrapta. And the whole episode is just another chance for Seahawk to talk about lighting ships on fire and tying people up. And, Scorpia gets to sing. And then we meet Peekaboo, Prince Peekaboo, and the whole thing's just set up to a gag they pulled with Flutterina in season 3. Where the character of Peekaboo isn't even really Peekaboo, it's a Double Trouble.
Yeah.
And for you audio listeners, I just slapped my forehead.
Yes, he did.
It's stuff
he
like
did
that where it's like, okay, I the first time I gave it a pass, whatever. It was kind of clever the way they used Flutterina in season 3. But like to repeat it again here for a single episode, it's like why? Why? We did this already. Why do you need to take another fan-loved character from the past and bring it just to be a punchline? Manny just jumped in.
Manny.
He says, "Hey guys, not a fan of the new show, but wanted to say hey. See you tomorrow, hopefully." Well, Manny,
hey, Manny.
It is what it is. No judgment here. However, we will be answering questions later in the episode if you want to pop back in.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you don't like it, you can come along with us and tell us why you don't like it. But
definitely.
And I'm assuming you mean the new She-Ra show, and not our new show, because that would just be hurtful.
We're not answering your questions if you say it's ours.
But yeah, so you didn't need to waste an episode on this. You didn't need to bring in another old character just to do it again. And I it goes back to Scooby-Doo for me. The first live action Scooby-Doo, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Freddie Prinze Jr. You know the one I'm talking about. Don't pretend you don't.
Yep. I've seen it many times. My daughter likes that movie.
But that ending to this day, where it turns out Scrappy-Doo was behind it all along, still bothers me to no end.
They threw him under the bus.
The same thing. Don't bring this stuff back just to make it a punchline. Leave it out then.
Yeah.
It's not helping anything. Just because you feel you don't like a character, which I never got the Scrappy-Doo hate. I never got the Orko hate. I never got the Snarf hate. I don't get this hate. And that's a whole nother tangent, I know. But yeah, it barely worked for me with Flutterina, and it really didn't work for me here.
Yeah, the Peekaboo thing, like... In my opinion, it's one of those things. If you haven't brought somebody in by the end of last season, you shouldn't be bringing them in on the final season.
No,
it's just that simple. The final season, to me, from beginning to end, should be the wrapping up of everything that you set up in previous seasons to tell your story. And the fact that they even needed to do this episode was shocking to me.
Yeah.
For the fact that I don't give a crap about Peekaboo in this show.
Right.
Peekaboo was never even brought up on the show. And here, well, no, but if I remember right, somebody said Peekaboo was brought up on the Princess Prom episode. Well, they also brought Sweet Bee up there, and we didn't even get Sweet Bee.
Hey, spoiler alert, we never saw her.
Yeah. So why do we need to go and introduce Peekaboo?
Well,
It didn't bother me that it was Prince Peekaboo. I'm going to say that,
well,
but it was more like, why are we doing this? Like, what? And on top of that, I am going to say the first few episodes, with it being this whole rescue mission, I honestly think that could have been even trimmed down somewhat
absolutely.
to allocate, because no matter what the fans have been, I've been scouring a little bit last night, not a huge amount, but enough to go. I know there are fans who are hardcore that look
real
at.
quick. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt your train of thought, but I was trying to catch Manny before he went. He did specify.
No.
He's talking about the new She-Ra show. The only reason he's here right now is because of our show. So thank you, Manny.
Oh yeah. Well, we thank you, Manny.
And he does say that he wants to see the new Kevin Smith He-Man very much.
Okay.
Yes, we all do.
Okay. We all do, without having any more talking about it. Let's just see some stuff finally.
And real quick, Manny, if you could just do me a favor, because I'm the technical side of things, if you're still there, just rate us. How's the video looking and how's the audio sounding? Because it's looking good on my end. I want to make sure it's kind of good for everybody across the board. So if you're still here, just let me know how everything's looking down there. I'd appreciate it. Sorry, Sean. I want to take care of it.
No problem.
But yes, the rescue mission definitely could have been trimmed down. That took way too long.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, there were hardcore fans who were following like Noelle Stevenson's Twitter account, who were even saying some similar things of, the ending of this just wrapped up and boom, you're done. And they could have used 5 minutes tacked on at the end to just give you something other than here's the end and cut the black and here's the credits. Right. So in my opinion, if you start looking, you look at that and you go to the very beginning of the season and go, well, what stuff was unnecessary that maybe we could truncate? The rescue mission, the ship getting to the point where they can't operate it in space.
Well,
it's all been done before. It's freaking Galaxy Quest. Like they had to go to their crystal burned out. They had to land on the planet. And I'm like watching the whole thing going, well, Tim Allen did this and it was better. I'm okay with that.
He managed to lose his shirt, so I mean,
he did. I see you've managed to lose your shirt. I love it. Yeah.
And right there, that rolling right into there. Okay, so we're introducing the new character Peekaboo, who's not really a new character, and then like you said, they had to land, and we introduce a whole group of new characters, the Star siblings.
Yeah. The Star siblings.
Wait a minute. Yes, they introduced the Star sisters, but they couldn't all be sisters anymore, so they had to make Jewel Star a male. And I guess I know I'm highlighting the Prince Peekaboo and now Jewel Star being a guy. I'm perplexed at the reasoning. That's my main thing right now. I guess. How do I want to put this, Sean? Well, everyone gets so up in arms whenever a Captain America. Well, no, they didn't do Captain America. They did Thor. Jane Foster became Thor. Who else was? Oh, didn't Iron Man become a girl at one point recently?
Iron Man was Iron Heart for a while. It was a young lady in college that became Iron Heart for a bit. There has been times where
the main
the main character
has gone from male to female.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there's always an uproar about that. And I guess I don't get the point. What was the point? Especially since She-Ra has mostly been girls anyways, and we're kind of in this era of, girl power and everything of that. Doesn't it kind of seem like it detracts from that to to change girl characters into guys?
The logic that I understood through a couple different places since the finale aired, at least in Peekablu's case, is the male is the one that has the big plume of feathers. They're the ones that have the showy off. That's how they attract the female.
On
So
Earth.
I think well, on Earth, yes, but here's the
yes, I'm gonna be that guy right now.
But there's so many Earth-like references that I'm not really going to go and give you that much of a curve on this one.
Fair enough.
That was what the argument was. Basically, it didn't. In like a zoological or a whatever you want to call it, that would have been the male versus it being the female, like on the traditional one. And, for me, it was a better thing just left well enough alone that you just hear the name Peekablu, to be honest. That's where my whole thing is going to fall every time we talk about this. Like, didn't need the episode, didn't need to know who Peekablu was here. I'm just happy that they go, Peekablu, Sweet Bee, Princess Prom episode, you're done.
Right.
And
if you're not going to introduce them by season 3, like, it's too late then.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm rolling into. And I like I said, I wasn't I'm not trying to stir the pot or anything. I guess I'm just confused with the gender swap. Either way, like I wasn't necessarily, even though I don't follow the Thor comics, it was still like a head scratcher. Like, okay, Jane Foster's Thor now. I view it both ways. It's like I don't know, but
the Star Siblings one is a harder one for me to even understand why they went there without, hopefully, like, I don't know if she posted anything or if there's any kind of an interview with her where they discussed why they went to that change. Personally, I guess, okay, you come from the original She-Ra was an offshoot or I wouldn't say a sequel, but she was an offshoot of He-Man. There's no way around that. He-Man is a very male-centric line, and like looking at my classics on my shelf, there really is there are times where I look at it and I go, my God, the amount of women that aren't on this shelf versus how many dudes are on this shelf.
Absolutely.
So in that way, I think She-Ra, that was a huge part of why I couldn't crack the code of that when I was a kid, is that was such a wall of females that it's like you had Bo and he was the guy where I'm like, okay, I got Bo. But then, occasionally Seahawk.
Yep.
And that's about it. And otherwise, it's the Horde guys that you're rooting for then. And then you kind of feel like a jerk because you're rooting against She-Ra. And I think there was maybe elements of, we have Bo as a main character and Hordak as a main character. Beyond that, there wasn't a whole lot of other male representation until Seahawk or until... Now, like I said, the Star Siblings. Now here's a Jewel Star becoming a guy, and that's the only thing that makes sense to me is they just said maybe we went a little overboard with how many females are on this show, and maybe we'll throw in a couple males here and there and gender swap. But
you can never have too many females.
Well, when I was 5 and 6, I disagreed, but as an adult, I never will fight you on that one. I agree completely.
And that's part of the difference between you and me, because I never questioned the male female ratio in either show. Like even She-Ra's been out since I've been on this earth, basically, and I grew up on her, and it never once bothered me that I was seeing Castaspella or Frosta or Glimmer or Angela. Like, I never questioned. I don't know. I just it worked for me. So yeah, I don't know. I just think it's a disrespect to the original character. That's just me. But again, and we didn't even really see Peekablu, so I don't even know if I can really count that one even. But okay, so like you're saying, okay, so they make Jewel Star a guy that kind of gets some more testosterone in there. Okay, and that was actually a pretty neat episode, honestly, where even though it's complete filler. Where they're going to find the crystal, and they find this husk of a planet that's been destroyed by Horde Prime, and the Star Siblings live there, and they work together to help, because they need the fuel so that they can get off before this planet completely cracks apart, and and Adora and them obviously need to get back to Etheria, and it ends with basically them joining forces. The Star siblings are like, "Oh, we're gonna help you. We're gonna join the rebellion. This is it. Let's take the fight to Horde Prime." And they are not seen again in the season, except for a single shot on Horde Prime's view screen.
Yeah,
they don't, because they haven't even gotten to Horde Prime's ship at that point. They're still on their way there. And the Star siblings pledge to help them. They don't join them to Horde Prime ship. They don't head back to Etheria. They apparently were led to believe they went to some other planet and started fighting Horde Prime there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so what was the point of that?
That's the thing. Like, there are okay. The first one I always go to is Princess Prom because of the fact that most people are like, why? And that's the one that broke some of the people who were the older fans trying to watch this. I remember. What's up?
And just real quick here, I'm going to preface this by there was a cat down there.
Another one.
I will preface this by there is a She-Ra Princess of Power golden book called I meant to look it up. I want to say it was Too Long at the Ball or something like that. And I love that golden book. And the whole thing was like this Horde spy came into like a big ball that Bright Moon was hosting, and I think he tricked Glimmer into like going outside, and he ended up kidnapping her. I haven't read it in years, but vaguely remember. So I'm not against, dance settings. I just think Princess Prom was not a very good episode. But go on.
Well, that's the thing. Like the majority of that, like that introduced us to Frosta. So that was one of the very few. Oh, this is a reason to watch the episode. Here's Frosta showing up, and now she'll be part of the Princess Alliance. And then at the end of it, there was the major plot point, which I cannot think of for the life of me right now because it's been a while. Well, but it led into the next episode. It was somebody got captured or whatever, right?
Kidnapped, right?
Bo got kidnapped. Okay, so that led into the next episode. So if you didn't watch that one at least to the end, you're gonna sit there in the next episode going, "How did he get caught?"
Right.
Or whatever. And so you got that going for it. And you have that flow chart that I referenced already with, Sweet Bee is with so and so and Peekaboo and and all that stuff.
Couple of cool name drops.
Yeah, that was all right and all that. But yeah, like for a lot of this stuff, it does always boil down to it's like there's too many characters to juggle, and at the fifth season, they just flat out were like, we're just focusing on this and that's it, right? Because we have 13 episodes, but then like again, they're going off on these tangents, and you're like, 13 episodes. Why do we need a whole one to talk about the ship needing to be repaired? Why do we need a whole one where Peekaboo's involved? Why do we need this and that? Why, it's like there's definitely times where you're looking at the pattern or the course of this season, and you're just kind of going, what about Raz?
Yeah.
What about more about what is this Grayskull that she keeps on saying for the honor of every time she transforms? Because other than it being a throwback to what we knew, what does that mean in this continuity? Because it's obvious, it's been said many times, you've even said it too, this is not connected to He-Man. So what is Grayskull in this continuity? What is Grayskull in this new DreamWorks She-Ra? Because if it's not going to be a castle with a big skull face on it, I don't know what that means here. Well, there's relevance, perhaps, and
we'll get
instead,
we'll get to
instead, it left me literally with every reply I did to anybody who posted, "What did you think of this final season?" over social media. I said, I have questions.
Right.
That was all I'd keep replying to people, because that was my biggest problem. Is you addressed a bunch of stuff that I didn't need. I didn't need to unpack all this stuff. You didn't need to add more characters when there are plenty of characters. And there's Little Merman showing up. He's a happy little guy. But there are already plenty of enough characters why are we getting more when we don't even have time for those? And this whole end battle should be what the focus is about. Like the last 3 or 4 episodes could have just been, let's just do it, go for broke on this. And
absolutely,
when we got to what happened, I remember sitting there scratching my head going, well, that's it?
Right.
Like that, this is how it's ending? Like,
it's one of
okay.
And real quick, it was Queen of the Ball. Queen of the Ball is the Golden Book. But yeah, so you've got too much filler, especially for a final season. And honestly, even looking back over the past 4 seasons, I'm like, man, I really wish we could have had a few of those episodes back to kind of redo and kind of whittle this story. We could have whittled the story down a bit in the earlier seasons. Then you would have had more time at the end here for explanation.
Yeah.
But I did like what did I like?
This won't take long.
I'm trying not to be, because there were some, once, basically, whenever they were actually doing something that worked toward the goal, I liked it. When we were learning about Horde Prime, even if I don't agree with the backstories, which I didn't necessarily agree with a lot of them, being as that's how I want to see She-Ra, as long as those episodes, they were working towards something and it felt like we were getting somewhere, I was finding myself sucked into it. And there's quite a few episodes where it's ending and I'm going, well, actually, I'm kind of interested in how this plays out in a minute here.
Yeah.
And then usually it was like we jumped to something irrelevant. The big... I like She-Ra's redesign. When she finally transforms again, that new outfit of hers is spectacular. And honestly, I wish we could have had this outfit the whole time.
Yeah.
I thought it was really well done. It was finally reminiscent to the past, but clearly its own thing as well. There was some sideshow influence, I even want to say, in that, because I especially like the boots and everything, I felt were very reminiscent of that sideshow statue. And she just looked like the most powerful woman in the universe by the end of it. Finally.
Yeah, she, like, up until that sequence hit, Mara was the best looking She-Ra on the show for me. Anytime she became She-Ra, I was like awestruck because that was the look of her I wanted to see from the beginning of this series.
Right.
And even her in general, just the overall look of Mara was one of those characters that every time she was on the screen, my attention was like, it was like, I was just boom right there on the screen because, again, mysteries. Right. Here's this character. Who is she? How does this all, connect and all that stuff? And then when you see her as, here's how she looks, and then it's like, I remember when I was watching that episode that you're talking about, where boom, she finally becomes the upgrade version or the newer She-Ra. I was just like laying in bed waiting for my kids to fall asleep. And I had that on, and I'm like, I'm turned away from them, and I'm watching it on my phone. And the minute that she says, "For the honor of Grayskull," and that transformation hit, all of my body went like every muscle in me started getting clenched because I'm just like, they went there, like they actually went there, and they gave her something great looking.
Yeah.
That, like you said, I really wish that was the look through the whole thing because that would have actually made a lot of people probably shut up about the design because too many people were so about the design. Yeah. I don't have a better way of explaining it.
And the design was kind of so
it was, and
the whole. While I did say it was a little Sailor Moon-ish, which it is, that whole transformation sequence was much better. They actually had some flair. They had some space behind her. They did the like twinkling, circle around her, very reminiscent. It was a much better transformation sequence as a whole.
Yeah.
The one downside, and it would have been, they were so close. They were so
I know what you're going to say.
close.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
In that moment where she transformed into She-Ra, it was they were trying to rescue Catra because Catra had already helped Glimmer escape, and they couldn't leave her behind. And Adora's like pinned down by Horde clones, and you know, um, and she you can see it in her eyes, like she realized they need She-Ra, and she goes for the honor of Grayskull, and then nothing. And I still wish they had started it right at the beginning of season 1, where she says, "I am She-Ra," but they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not gonna do it then, this here with the upgraded look, the new transformation, to me this whole story has been about Adora becoming She-Ra, embracing the power, doing good, righting the wrongs that the Horde has done so far. That's She-Ra to me. That's Filmation, that's this one, that was their common thread. And so and Sean's gonna hate me for this again, but basically this show felt to me like it was the Smallville of She-Ra, where we're seeing her as she's starting out and she's building to the She-Ra we know and love. You know, other shows have done. Arrow, they ran along the same thing, where you're watching Oliver Queen actually become Green Arrow, and by the end he's more the Green Arrow that we know.
Yeah.
Which it's getting a bit overdone at this point, but okay. It's kind of where the cultural zeitgeist is for some reason. But this was the moment. If there was any moment to introduce the I Am She-Ra, it was this moment where she's finally going, okay, this is me. I'm making it my own. Which that was an underlying theme in the season, I believe. Not just to me, but I think it was there. It didn't seem to be the main focus, but it was, her. This is Adora. This is her choosing her destiny instead of it being forced upon her. There was lots of that subtext going on. And I just think it would have made that scene just perfect if she finally did the I am She-Ra. I am. Adora is She-Ra. I'm choosing this.
That was part of why I kept coming back, because the first few seasons we never got the I am She-Ra moment. But then when you look at how she is a She-Ra, she uses She-Ra as almost an entertainment tool at times, like especially the Perfuma episode and all that stuff in the first season and things. There's like an element of she's still figuring it out. Right. She's kind of like Bambi finding her legs.
She's immature. She's learning.
Yeah, and you'll get that from even her personality. She'll be cracking jokes. She's kind of figuring things out and getting stressed out in the middle of battle. She's all that kind of stuff. And it's basically it's the whole it's all riding on me, but I don't know how to do this. And to me, like that's why I love that transformation. Is that was the first time where she stood there and there was no, like you could see she knows this is her now and she's not afraid of it. And she sees this is the way I need to go and I'm not afraid anymore. I'm doing this on my own terms. And
because it's needed.
It's needed.
It's the Prince Adam no more moment. It's the Courage of Adam moment. It's, she needs She-Ra. She cannot do this.
So in that way, I was a little let down as well with the whole, she never says I am She-Ra. But there was a part of me going, well, she didn't say it there, but maybe she'll say it like closer to the end. Maybe there'll be this moment where you're going to get this, like, because that was my main thing too, was I've questioned it for a long time. Like, will they ever let her go the full way? I mean, why that to me was like, she's embracing herself. She's embracing her destiny and all that. So like the idea of her going head to head against Horde Prime and actually, because the way they set that whole thing up, I'm like, like I wanted to see her with the sword, just going head to head with the guy.
Right.
They never gave you anything like that where it was substantial, and that should have been the moment where he thinks he's got her on the ropes or something, and like he says in the one scene about, oh, I don't know your face, but you're my old enemy and all that stuff.
Yeah,
it's like
it doesn't.
That would have been a great moment if she would have came back with "For the honor of Grayskull" and just blowing the hell out of the joint, and then him looking at her and her showing up like that. All the smoke clears, the light goes down, and then I am She-Ra, and that would have had me going, yeah.
No, and that moment, and it made absolutely no sense to me. It's he's confronting her in the Crystal Castle, and he's going, oh, I don't recognize your face, but I'm sure we probably fought at some point. You're my oldest enemy, or goodbye to my oldest enemy. It's like, no, which one is it? Either I'm, they tried to like shoehorn in this end here, like that Horde Prime's fought against She-Ra like for centuries, but he doesn't remember it. But so maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. It's confusing, and it's poorly written.
It's the whole problem of at the end of season 4, you're bringing in a main bad guy that now is the problem of season 5.
Well,
and it's like, well, why couldn't Hordak be the one she's going head to head with? Because in the original show, that was the person you wanted to see her take down.
Absolutely.
Like, come on.
And there
Hordak's
was
the guy.
The original used Horde Prime too, but there is no doubt in my mind if Filmation was doing a story based in continuity and they were going from beginning to end, there's no doubt in my mind that when the smoke cleared at the end, Hordak would be the one standing. Hordak would eventually take down Horde Prime.
Mm-hmm.
And Manny just said the show's not good enough to do that, so I'm assuming he's talking about the I Am She-Ra.
Oh, wow.
We agree, Manny. And thanks for sticking with us, even though this is not your cup of tea. I appreciate that. Unless he just keeps popping back in to see where we're at.
He's the official winner of the third no prize now, I think, at this point. He's going the distance with us tonight.
Yuka's been unseated.
Yuka, you got some living up to do here now, man.
But let's go into that. In all of this show here, this Netflix show, I only count 2 villains. 2 real villains. And that's Horde Prime and, unfortunately, the first ones. Because, Horde Prime is obvious, but he's, every other character, it's all this shades of gray. It's, I'm misunderstood. I got forced into this. I'm just here for the technology. There's an excuse for everybody. And by the end of this, everybody's good by the end of this. We'll just jump right there. Hordak's good. Yeah. Scorpia's, well, she's always been good. She was never evil to begin with, and that's a shame because she was a vicious character in Filmation. Catra's good. Shadow Weaver gives up her life to save Adora and Catra, so she has her redemption. So at the end of this, the only Double Trouble, they help take down Horde troopers. Basically at the end of this, the only villains that are left, the only 2 that don't have a redemption arc are Horde Prime and the first ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and
this
it
is
takes
the evil Horde.
Yeah.
These are the baddest of the bad in the known galaxy and even some unknown galaxies.
Yeah, and it makes me sad to think about, like, going into the season, my daughter, when she saw that final shot from season 4 where all those ships are now converging on Etheria, she looked at me, she goes, what's that mean? I'm like, he's bringing reinforcement. They're coming in from everywhere.
Right.
I'm like, there's probably thousands of ships that are coming to Etheria. Right. And my daughter's eyes went wide, and she goes, they're not going to win. And I go, that's why we got to watch the next season.
Right.
I don't know how they're going to win. I don't know what's going to happen. And, like, I think what this is always going to amount to for me is always going to be She-Ra's tale is something that I feel should be a darker and more adult tale to tell because of her childhood. I mean, she's kidnapped, and they don't even get into that in this, which drives me up the wall too. Yet more questions without answers. But she was kidnapped, and then she's brainwashed through sorcery and through Hordak to become a servant of the evil Horde,
super soldier.
It basically super soldier. And even in like the DC comics with the Despera stuff, she's going out and conquering, wearing a mask to show this is the man who's conquering you. It's Hordak. I'm in his likeness, and I'm his daughter, and I'm coming to destroy you because the Horde wants whatever they want from your people and your planet. And that's how they're conquering. And, it's like she's not somebody that I equate to having a lovey-dovey, easygoing, happy kind of a existence. She's somebody that has done and seen some stuff. And that should be something that would be a heck of a compelling story to tell of her with the redemption arc and all this stuff. And in my opinion, the part of the show that they wanted to recapture more than anything was the pastel colors. They wanted to capture that 80s flavor more and turn it into something palatable for younger children, like my daughter who's 8, and that's more in her wheelhouse of this is the kind of stuff she likes. But it's like, no, you could do some pretty deep, dark stuff with this. And here like you said, the villains don't add up in this at all.
They're not villains. None of them are.
And like, Hordak, they had a line about him in this season that was a perfect sum up of it. Well, what was Hordak like? Well, mostly he'd just growl and he'd say, "Get out." Yeah. And it's basically what he was. Right. There really isn't much you had from him that can make you go, wow, that is somebody I want to see her go up against. I mean, the last few times I remember seeing him, he's like crawling around half dead.
He's weak, and Catra's taking over, and it's like, the only season he was good in was the first, but that's because we didn't see him. He was the man in the shadows.
He was the big question mark. And then once we saw him, he was one of those characters where, for a lot of us, we were like, yeah, Hordak just showed up, and it gave you that, like, this could go somewhere. This could be great.
Same with Shadow Weaver. She was a powerful sorceress in the first season. Then she got all her powers taken away, and she's basically she's been hanging out with the rebels since season 2. Like, she is one of the longest tenured rebel members at this point.
Yeah.
And she's been untrustworthy and stuff, but she hasn't done anything incredibly evil. I mean, she could have slit their throats all in their sleep at any point here, and game over.
Agreed. And other shows probably would have gone there. Other shows would have done it.
At the end of the day, basically, she apologized to Catra, and she saved her and Eudora, and, like, there's her redemption. I was so sick of redemption arcs by the end of this season. Like, it's unbelievable. And that's the thing, because She-Ra is supposed to be a show about redemption. The one character that should be the whole redemption arc, she was just like, she found a sword, and now she's good. And I promise, Sean, I won't tangent too long, but I've got to now.
I will have my beer.
And I know Sean's sick of hearing me talk about it, but the secret identity adds so much to She-Ra's story. It adds so much because it's forcing everybody to trust She-Ra, but they're not going to trust Eudora. And there's so many places you can go with this. We've talked about this. Since I think our first episode or second episode, we've talked about the secret identity on our podcast here. And that secret identity for Eudora means so much more even than Adam, because it's not only a way for her to be, protect the identity, they won't take her out when she's Eudora, but it's a chance for Adora to get people to accept her for her. You know, it's too easy for her to go in front in season 1 to go in front of Queen Angela and everybody else and go, "I'm She-Ra," and they're all like, "Oh, cool, she's She-Ra. Like, she's totally trustworthy because she changes into She-Ra." And then it's just like, and then by episode 3, it's like, okay, it's cool. Ex-Horde soldier just wandering around Bright Moon. We have no problem with this because she's got a sword and she's She-Ra. And whereas if you keep the secret identity intact, then you've got She-Ra. And imagine Dora going through, after everything else she's been through, now she got to go through, when she's transformed as She-Ra, everyone's like, yeah, She-Ra, you're the best. And then when she goes back to Adora, there's, Glimmer and Bow are probably pretty cool with her because whatever, you can character build however you want. She saved them, whatever. She proves somehow to them she's trustworthy. But she's still got the entire kingdom to get on her side. People always casting glances. Something goes wrong. Imagine that Double Trouble storyline where Adora has a secret identity and all that stuff's going wrong. And then you've got everybody going, well, stuff's going weird. The Horde's getting word of our plans. We have an ex-Horde soldier sitting at the council table every day,
Yeah.
And it really makes her have to earn it. And she knows she has to because she's done bad things. I mean, yes, this show didn't really show it. They pretty much said she went right from boot camp to, finding the sword. But, and Filmation obviously shied away from actually getting the specifics of what she did. But she served the evil Horde. She's got some stuff to atone for. And to me, that's all culminated in the Secret of the Sword. When she's in the chamber, she sees He-Man's life force draining. And she's, what woke me up? Why am I here? And the sword starts glowing, and the sorceress appears, and she tells her, you have a family. You were taken. It's not your fault. You can make amends. You have a mother. You have a father. You have a twin brother that's right in front of you, and he needs you. And Adora taking that sword of protection and looking at it. Sorceress's parting words are, "For the honor of Grayskull, Adora." It means so much here. It's Adora, it's Sorceress. Come on, don't let Grayskull be wrong. You're the chosen one, you and Adam. And you've done terrible things so far, but it's not too late. For the honor of Grayskull, do the right thing. And in Secret of the Sword, Adora picks up that sword and she says to herself, "For the honor of Grayskull." And nothing happens that first time. It's not until it's the same moment that we finally get in season 5, but it means so much more because she's holding that sword and He-Man slumps down, the Magnum beam's fully charged, and in that moment, same thing. You see that look on Adora's face. She's not confused. She's not afraid anymore. She sees, my brother needs me. This planet needs me. For the honor of Grayskull. And that's when the transformation kicks in, and it's so powerful, culminating in the "I am She-Ra." Because it's her accepting, I've done bad things, I can make them right now. And that needs to be earned. And I really thought with this series coming out and knowing it was going to be, very continuity heavy, that we were going to get that redemption arc, and we don't. We just don't, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that transformation is it's one of the most potent ones of all time for me. Right. For that reason, like the underlying things of everything that's happening in that moment. And when you hear her say "my brother," right before she says it, there's that, it's all clicking for her, and yes. the magical veil is gone, and now she's like, this is who she needed to be all along. I mean, to me, they couldn't go to the He-Man well, the Masters well, and all that.
Absolutely not. But that's not even what I'm not even advocating for that. I just want to put that out there.
Well, what I was going to say though is in a different way, what they could have done in this the whole show to me is her defending different areas, which she kind of does.
Yeah,
but
they get there's into a little bit.
Yeah, and she kind of does, but I feel like there could have been a way where maybe like you said, the dual identity. Maybe she's doing stuff to help people, and they're seeing it's this horde. This person who was a horde commando or whatever. And so there is a tendency of she's trying to help people, and people are running from her, and they're running into bigger trouble in the middle of all these things. And that's the moment where she's like, I got to get out of here. I got to. Like I'm not helping these people, and she's running into the forest and doing the, for the honor of Grayskull and everything. But, I think the major payoff in a moment like that, this show subverts a lot of what I wanted to see in a superhero She-Ra show. Because, the one thing that they could play out, they're so worried about Etheria. They're so worried about the people of Etheria and all that stuff. And then with the plot device that you have of Horde Prime in this, and they call it chipping. He's chipping everybody. Yep. So there's villages now that are turning into Horde Prime, and he's controlling them as, extensions of himself. And now they're like zombies, and they're Horde zombies basically at this point.
Which was actually the original idea behind the Horde. That's where the whole chest emblem thing came from. Is that was going to be Mattel's thing? Is like all those chest emblems were removable, and that's like what controlled Grizzlor and Leech and everybody, and put them in service to Hordax. So
did not know that. Yeah, that's cool.
So I actually like that. I actually like that plot. I thought it was a good one. But go on.
Well, I just like the idea that if you had this person who's seeking redemption, and it's the main thing that they went to right off the bat was the best friends squad thing.
Yeah.
And that completely took a lot of the weight out of a redemption story, because all of a sudden it's everybody's hugging, everybody's got the anime happy eyes, and they're glistening and all that stuff. And, I don't give a crap one way or the other if it's an anime, the way that they did it. They could have done some deeper stuff with the story without going to all the happy stuff that they did at times. And some of that should have been when Adora is going and helping the others and doing these raiding missions or something, or going in to meet another princess, and then the princess has to be convinced to join the princess. What was it? The Princess Council or whatever they're trying to build. Alliance. Thank you. I knew I said it earlier and I could not think of what the name was.
Because Great Rebellion is just too awesome of a name.
but I think. See, basically, the way I was hoping it was going to go, and this is granted, it's subverting me being who I am versus what they had planned, and I understand that. But at the end of this, I like the idea that he's chipping people, and there's these horde zombies basically out of villagers and out of their friends and everything. And the idea that he might be using those as a way of saying, all these people are under my control and you need to come back. It's the idea of I'm having them draw you to me because you are Horde, and now they're Horde because you won't come back.
Right.
And it's almost that whole it's the cat and mouse game in that way. And the idea that he's using the fear of these people seeing her and knowing what she did as the poison to them, and he's poisoning the well over and over with her. So by the time you get to the part where the two of them get to go head to head, then all of a sudden maybe her big moment when she like you're saying about the dual identities. Well, the dual identity for me in this, it's like if they did the dual identity leading up to that point, her actually doing the transformation in front of everybody, and finally, like, all bets are off. She's got to do this. Yeah. That's the moment it breaks him away from everybody, because now she's using that power. It's for the honor of Grayskull. The good is coming back. She's She-Ra, and that's her I am She-Ra moment, where it's good old Cap doing Avengers Assemble, you know, and then suddenly the rest of Etheria is like they get pitches pitches. They get torches, they get the pitchforks and all that stuff. And it's like every villager is coming to this, and they're realizing this woman in disguise has been protecting them throughout this whole situation, and they're on her side, and they're accepting of her finally. And that's her redemption arc. She look around and she's seeing people she rescued in season 1, and they're there just smiling at her, and it's like, that you're the hope we've needed all along, and it came in the form of this person we couldn't trust, and we were wrong. You've been fighting for us all along through this. That would have been amazing. And again, subverting. So it's like, I'm not a writer on the show. I don't have any clout or whatever. But the one thing I will say, and this is probably going to be the beginning of me getting divisive here, is it just it turned into it turned from me.
Are you going where I think you're going already?
I don't know.
Are you jumping to the big ending or no?
No.
Okay.
I'm not jumping to the big ending. I'm just going to do an overall thing. And for me, it's doing what a lot of things are doing lately that are driving me crazy. And it is becoming the writers are basically letting the fans dictate, this is what we want to see as these things are developing. And they just said, fanfic it. Let's do it. And it's just that sort of a feeling throughout this season where I'm like, none of this added up to what you gave me leading up to this point, and here we are.
And let's talk about that a minute, because like you said earlier, and for me too, the big thing about this was, okay, we should finally get answers to some of these lingering questions. Where did Adora actually come from? Yes, Light Hope pulled her through a portal when she was an infant. Okay, but where did she come from? And it's the same thing, and I hate it when, I didn't like it when Multiverse subverted our expectations, where they took out Filmation He-Man and didn't allow Adam to transform during the actual, crisis of the issue. And I don't like it when it's done here, where we find out, okay, we don't find out anything about Dora's family. They never broach the subject at all. As far as the first ones, we find out from Horde Prime that he wiped them all out decades ago, generations ago. So anyone who would have the answers is dead.
Yeah.
And here again, I don't like the first ones being painted as villains in this series. I really think that here's another thing that I really expected there to be, not a redemption arc, but I thought there was going to be some sort of explanation, like, something was misunderstood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Regarding the whole first one's mystery, because how do you take the original benevolent founders of Etheria, from Vintage, and turn them into like the big villains of the series, like on par with Horde Prime? Like, that's not. No.
Well, and you and I talked about this, and I get to say it now because you said it earlier. It's Smallville it. Yeah. Because on Smallville, they had that really cool moment that I thought was great.
Yeah.
In, I think it was season 2, where Clark's trying to decipher the Kryptonian language, and he finds out that the message from Jor-El was he was sent to conquer Earth.
Right.
And I love that completely shut down him wanting to do anything more, because he didn't want to be the person to conquer us.
Right.
He felt like he was just here to help, which is what Superman's about. And that's exactly what they did here, where they Smallvilled it and they just turned it into, okay, here's something that you think but we're going to turn it into something that's evil about it now. So now, crap,
Even Smallville ended up kind of retconning, well, not really retconning, but they got Jor-El to a better place by the end of that series.
I agree.
He was, and that's what I was expecting for this. Like, okay, so we've got the conflict here, but eventually Adora is going to realize, oh wait, we were wrong about this, or Mara was wrong about it. Whatever you needed to do. Like, there should have been some sort of explanation there, but no. Like, everything we saw in Hero, that's it. That's all you get, folks. And I did, I did go back and I rewatched Hero today. and there is some stuff I either missed before or I didn't realize or I didn't remember when I was watching this season. But still, okay. Now, and here's a big part. Here's where what really took me out. So partway through this final season, hopefully everyone remembers Hero was the episode with Mara in it. We learned about how she put Etheria into Despondos because the first ones were going to destroy, the whole universe, which is basically what Horde Prime wants to do here, in this season.
Yep.
So, and she meets Madame Raz, and they have their things and everything. And they're one of the things that bugged me in this season is we find out that the sword is meaningless. Like, it never amounted to a hill of beans because Adora can transform without the sword, we find out, and she creates her own sword. That new sword that she's holding it's not a reforged sword of protection. It's not. We don't even see that broken sword of protection past when they go into space.
Yeah.
Once they go into space, that's it. You never see the sword of protection again. So for 4 seasons now, she's been using this thing to transform, and it's meaningless. She can do it anytime she wants. That new sword, which is a very nice design. I really like the design of the new sword.
Agreed.
It's not even really a sword. It's a Green Lantern type projection.
It's a construct, yeah.
Yes, that Adora makes. And it's funny because going back and we were actually told last season, Sean, Raz specifically says, Mara questions, she says something about the sword, and Raz specifically says, sword? You don't need a sword to become She-Ra. She-Ra's inside of you. That's...
Gee, I missed that one. There you go.
That's literally the quote from Madame Raz.
So I guess some of my questions were answered if I would have just rewatched the entire series again. At least one more time.
But even then, and then Mara says, no, the first ones gave me the sword so that I become She-Ra. I was chosen by the first ones to become She-Ra, and go on this mission. And, and we know from Mara's talking that she's the first one to come to Etheria. This is the first time the first ones have been on here. And then Raz tells her, oh no, She-Ra's been here long before you got here. So, which is it? And that's one of the biggest problems with the show. They never explain which it is. So, Raz is saying She-Ra's been on Etheria for a lot longer than Mara. But Mara's got the sword from the first ones that allows her to become She-Ra. But then the sword's not even necessary to become She-Ra. And we get no answers to any of this.
Yeah, and that was the stuff that for me was the meat and potatoes of watching this series, was some of those moments like that and the Raz episode and everything. I was like, this is the stuff I want to find out. And instead, the other stuff, it's like, I can't take half of that seriously. Right. Let's talk about the mythology here is interesting because it can't be connected. So how are they creating this on its own?
Right.
They're doing their own foundations here. And, for people like us, it's just like, oh, when you get to the final episodes, you're like, oh, and that's what we don't know.
And that's the fact that they don't explain it. That's what kills me. At least give me an explanation. Yeah. Even if I don't like it. Manny does say that he can see why you're drinking because this show is horrible.
I said I was going to break out a couple beers on this one. I couldn't resist, and it is, yeah.
So you got that mystery that's never explained, and then the whole time Mara's talking to Raz, and I just rewatched this episode, so I know what I'm talking about. She's talking about her and Light Hope on this mission. The first ones made the heart of Etheria. Her and Light Hope are here to, finalize it. No one else has ever shown. No one else has ever mentioned. They're not. There's no ambiguity about it. That's the thing, because she specifically says, it's me and Light Hope. Multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one else. And so then we get into, which you just rewatched the episode in season 5 with where Bo goes to check on his dad's, right?
I rewatched it to understand the one
Right.
part because you're going to bring it up here.
Well,
so.
I want you to bring that part up. So now we get to season 5.
Well, it was season 2 actually. I think or end of season 2.
Okay. Well, that's
or something
okay.
like
You're
that,
talking about
where,
the Hera part.
Yeah, that's the part I'm talking about.
Okay, we'll go over that and then we'll jump to season 5 where we fully mess this thing up.
Okay, all right, that's my fault because I was just going back to that. I forgot about the season 5 part, but
no, you're good. It just because the whole story together, it's all. So go ahead.
Yeah, and so like his dad was saying how this they found out about this She-Ra, but really it wasn't She-Ra, it was Hera.
Yeah, and
she's riding on dragons and all this other stuff, and that she fought with the power of Grayskull. Mm-hmm. And that I wanted to rewatch that just to hear those lines again because I was like, wait a minute, and it was right. Like somebody pointed out one of the groups, like, well, what's that all about?
Right.
With everything else that they dropped here, then they talk about this is in the lineage or the history of the character, and it never was brought up either. It's one more, okay, here's this little nugget, and now we're dropping it, And
so they've got Mara becoming She-Ra, riding on dragons and fighting for Etheria and all that, which doesn't gel with what we see here.
Yep.
Because there's no evil on Etheria at this point. Like the first ones are using Etheria to harvest its magic so they can turn it into a super weapon. But there's not evil on Etheria. And then we get to this season where Bo goes to check on his dad's and he finds them in some ruins. And they find their, all this stuff about Mara and everything that just completely contradicts the season 4 episode. I'm sorry, it does. All of a sudden they're talking about how she had Mara She-Ra had a band of rebels that fought against an evil tyrant on Etheria, and basically said, and I think they even specifically say like they went through the same thing we did, and it's like, but they didn't. We saw that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go, oh yeah, and she had this whole group of rebels with her, and they play an old message. Audio message from this team of rebels that were supporting Mara, and they're like, "Oh, Mara, we created the failsafe to shut down the heart of Etheria, and it's hidden in Acrisia, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to get here, and it's showing that like this is supposedly taking place while when the heart was being activated back in Mara's time." And then they go, signing off, Grayskull Squadron. So, apparently, Adora's been doing it for the honor of this rebel team that supported Mara and was trying to find a way to shut down the heart of Etheria. Is what basically we're led to believe at this point.
Yeah.
But the first ones gave Mara the sword, and Mara said, for the honor of Grayskull, to transform. Yep. So Mara was doing it for the honor of her own team? And,
yep.
And here again, no other team is mentioned last season. And then here, oh yeah, they were working on this failsafe the whole time. Whereas Mara even says, I watched this episode today, Mara even says, I didn't find out until it was too late what the heart's really for.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Because she comes to Raz's doorstep and she's already got, they get all the symbols on them when the heart's being activated, the She-Ra does.
Yep.
And so it's already being activated. She got the symbols on here and she's saying, I just found out. And we're led to believe, when it turns out to be in Mysticor, over in Mysticor, team's like, huh? What? It's what? Okay, hang on. All right, we got a failsafe. Come on by. Like, no, it doesn't. The timeline doesn't work. It doesn't fit with what you just did a season ago. Unless, Sean, can you make that fit?
No. And that's like basically like as much as I'd like to be creative with that, I can't. And it that was a huge part of why for me, like everybody who's saying this is a masterpiece, this is that, I just keep on going like I don't see it like you do, and I have way too many questions of things that either were let go, dropped, hinted at, and then never gone back to. It's like I said, privately, this show does have the feeling of it's like Lost to me, because they bring in all these things at times, and you're only going to get the payoff of one or two of those things if you're lucky, and you're going to get a whole bunch of answers that you didn't even really need, and you're still going to be going, well, who was the smoke monster all along?
Yeah.
And granted, I know they kind of figured that out, but when you found out the answers to some of those mysteries, you were just like, what?
Yeah.
Like that's what that is, and that's kind of how I felt watching this final season. And like I don't know if it was a thing of, okay, let's do everything we can to just end it, and or whatever, because I don't feel like they tied up every loose end that I was invested in, and granted, it wasn't aimed at me, so that was part of the thing.
Tie up any of the loose ends.
Well, and here's the other problem I have with it. Like the show itself, it's aimed at like the rating is 7.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. With everything that happens on that show, how is a 7-year-old keeping track? My daughter was invested in when all those ships were at the end of season 4, and when I started explaining to her, because I found on wherever it was, there was an interview or something where they started talking about, here's what Horde Prime is for this show. And Horde Prime is this thousands of years old conqueror and tyrant and this stuff. So I explained that to her. I explained to her the idea of like the Horde itself and how many ships that means come into Etheria. That alone was enough for her to break into it in dinner, like the one night with my wife, who my wife is just like, this is you and your dad's thing. I'm not even getting my foot in this. And she goes, Mommy, did you know Horde Prime's thousands of years old and he has thousands of ships and they're about to go after Etheria and Shira's the only person who can stop them? And my wife just looks at me and she goes, I did not know that, honey. And I'm just standing there going, and the show starts tomorrow. We're going to find out how this ends. And then by the time I get to the ending, I'm like, I didn't find out how any of this ends.
No. So those are the big mysteries that bugged us. And let's just get into it. Let's we're running on about, I don't know, probably about 2 hours now. The whole at the end of the day, Horde Prime had a good he had a good plan, enslaving Etheria and bending everyone to his will. I like that. I like the final battle where they had to go up against all the evil versions, or the enslaved rebel characters, and I did like that. I liked all the Horde clones teleporting down. Like the actual battles in that final 2-parter, they were well done and they were exciting. But like I said, it was all the pitfalls along the way getting there, the drag out, the lack of explanation, and then we find out that the whole point of the whole story was just Adora trying to find someone to love.
Yeah.
And and this is what Sean was alluding to earlier when he was talking about, And I for one, I didn't like what they did to Seahawk in this series. I thought he was a very strong Filmation character and he was a great love interest for Adora. So of course there's always going to be a part of me that's beholding to the past. And that's, hate me for it if you want, but that's, there are certain tenets that I feel reboots need to follow, and for, you got to keep the characters true to themselves. And for me, He-Man, Adam has his Tila, his sorceress, his man-at-arms. She-Ra should have her Seahawk, her bow, her glimmer, her Madam Raz, her cowl. And so right off the bat, they eliminated half those characters really, or completely changed them. But basically, the end of this season, the wrap up is all about falling in love. It's about Adora and Catra professing their love for each other. It's about Glimmer and Bow professing their love for each other. Seahawk and Mermista professing their love for each other. Hordak and Entrapta professing their love for each other. That's what it all boils down to. That's why they don't go into the family. They don't go into the mysteries of Etheria, the mysteries of the first one. All we're focused on at the end here is these relationships, these couples. And that's what Sean was alluding to earlier when he said, yeah, it's like they just took, shipping's a big thing right now. It has been for a while. I mean, Supernatural, that was on for 20 years, and they've been shipping that thing the whole way through.
For at least 10 to 15 years, that's been a thing. And
that's fine.
Here we are.
That's fine. The fans, they can have it, I just don't think in a show aimed for kids that this is the place to go this in depth, and it still doesn't feel earned. Like there's no, especially the Bow and Glimmer one. Honestly, that was the biggest one where I'm going like, dude, there's like nothing has happened up to this point to make you feel that they have any more feelings for each other besides friendship. And then all of a sudden they're professing their love for each other as, Horde Prime is invading. It just, it felt forced. It all did. Catra's, like I said, Adora's redemption arc was cut short way back in season 1. Catra's redemption arc is because she told Adora that she loves her. And so now everyone's just like, okay, cool. She's awesome. She's a good guy. It's like, no, Catra did some horrible stuff in this series. If there was anybody I was hoping that was going to stay evil to the end, it was Catra. Like, she has been nothing but evil up until this point,
Yeah.
And...
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, finish up and then I'll jump in there.
Well, I was just saying, and basically her whole redemption arc boils down to, well, if she loves Adora, then she has to be good. And even Bo had a moment earlier in the season where he's like, hey, does anybody remember that she threw me off a cliff? Like when they're first starting to trust her, and it's like, thanks, Bo. Like, you're the only voice of reason here. Like,
and he usually was. That was one of the things that they at least carried through on the show was 9 out of 10 times if he's on something, he's usually going, maybe we shouldn't do this or whatever. So I like that they kept that.
Yeah.
And, that was definitely a good part of his character throughout the series. But yeah, agreed. Like, he's like, don't we remember? This is somebody that we maybe don't want on our side right now. Basically, all right. So that whole this is a little bit of a sticky mess to get into in some ways. And you and I, we've already had our off camera stuff about like how do we tread into this without doing something crazy here.
Yes. And I guess I should have prefaced it with that. If you love this ending and this is where you wanted it to end this whole time, I'm happy for you. Honestly, I really am. I'm glad that you got what you needed out of this. But it's just it's not where I needed it to go, and it didn't feel like where the show was necessarily going up to this point.
And I agree for that reason, because it never felt like it felt always like Adora was happy to be with her friends. Mm-hmm. And every time she and Catra had any kind of moment, like especially when She-Ra came out of the portal, that Catra actually was trying to use, and she had that look. Mm-hmm. That was the moment where I'm like, they're done.
Right.
That bridge has burned. We're done. And she's choosing her friends, and she's moving on. And that moment just sealed the deal for me. And then all of a sudden we're taking that moment and throwing that out the window as well.
Yeah.
And now here we are at the end with, okay. And there's nothing wrong with having the actual, the point or the lesson being love wins in some ways to me. Like I'm not against that idea, because in this day and age with all the craziness that's happening and all the humanity that's now becoming toxic through how many different reasons, there is an actually good message of that to convey to children, especially if they get to see the news and see like this is the craziness that us adults are screwing up in this world. You might have a chance. And that was another thing about the show, not the tangent, but just here's these kids that are doing all this and the adults are not even doing a whole hell of a lot. And that's another thing that drove me nuts about the show. But it's like the love wins thing is not something I want to fight. That's never going to be something I'm going to call BS on. But
it's,
I think what?
I was going to say, it's got to be earned.
Well, it's got to be earned, but also to me, there is. I felt like there was something that was really nagging at me about that choice of an ending, and a lot of it comes from the simple fact Adora is trying to do right by everything, and she has her friends, and the friends are supportive, and they might have their moments where they're fighting, but at the end of the day, they're supporting each other and they're supporting their cause. And here she is with Catra, who is doing everything in her power to be as evil and be one of the most evil people on the entire show as possible. So I feel like there's an element of that's teaching the wrong lesson for the fact that here's somebody who is a toxic, messed up individual who really needs help in a different way than just saying, I love you and kissing her at the end. I felt like that is something that if that was me and I had an ex or I had somebody in my life, granted, I wouldn't be married. I'd have to have somebody else in this situation. But if I had somebody in my life who was that person, I can tell you out of just loving myself, I would need to leave that person, because that is something where it's like you can give so much to somebody, and the more that they are toxic to you and the more that they try to hurt you, the more that she was trying to hurt her on so many different levels, physically, emotionally, mentally,
everything.
And it's like there was so much abuse in that way to me on this show between the two of them that by the time you get to that ending, it's like that isn't going to solve your problem, because she has deep-seated problems that have been there since you two were even kids. They've shown in the flashbacks. Here's these moments where she's beating up the other horde recruits and the cadets because she's jealous, because Adora is spending time with them. They did it on this season. The whole, well, we can be friends together. And she doesn't want anything to do with it because she won't let Adora have anybody else in her life. So here we now have the best friend squad of 4 people. Who is Catra probably going to hate out of those people?
Everybody.
It's not Adora.
Well, she hates, like you said, she's toxic to Adora too. I mean, that's really what the ending of the show equates to. It's like, okay, a toxic relationship is okay if at the end of the day they say, I love you. No. And
then what? Like
it's
later that night, later that night, then when Adora shows up and she has a black eye or something, which it's a kid's show, they're not going to go there. But in my head, as an adult, I'm watching this, just kind of going, that's just not something that you necessarily want to show to a kid and just go, just that is enough to go, you're good and it's going to solve all your problems. That's not the answer all the time, and that really. It was not, like you said, it wasn't earned, but it was also just not handled in a way where I felt like it even respected the lead up to everything in that last season.
No. Now, what I did I liked, honestly, going the other way, I really liked, and it's funny because I was talking to you when I was earlier in the season, and I mentioned that, we never got to focus on Natasha and Spinnerella this whole time. And actually, they got some hefty stuff this season, and that was some really good relationship stuff. Like
that was,
Natasha, Spinnerella gets chipped pretty early in the season, and Natasha's having to deal with, the love of my life is turned evil. I've got to fight her. We know each other so intimately. We know each other's weaknesses. Like there's
Yeah.
some good stuff there. I was
Yeah.
enjoying that.
And that was one of those moments where, like, at the end when they're having their confrontation and she does the "I'm not giving up on you," it's like,
Right.
that makes sense. But like, Adora ran away from Catra, and Adora's been away from her for all this, and then in that time,
Yeah.
you get to see the amount that Catra will go to do all these horrible things and kick people out of her life left and right. So even if she gets Adora in the end,
Yeah.
I don't think Adora and her are going to have all that amazing of a
No.
relationship.
It's
And
gonna be terrible.
I know there's probably people out there that are going to say to me, well, no relationship's perfect, but
There's a
no
difference.
relationship's perfect. There is no relationship that's perfect, but you shouldn't start a relationship with somebody who is going to do half the crap that Catra did and figure saying "I love you" and kissing her is the only thing that's going to mend everything. Like I said, that moment of her coming through that portal and knowing what Catra was about to do and to like eliminate the reality or whatever, that was enough for me to just go like, Shira and Adora both have seen this is what this girl is willing to go to. She's done.
Right.
And it's like, well, where the heck did that come from then? I'm sure I've read how many places, people were like, oh, we were seeing it from the beginning, or we were hoping from the beginning this would happen. And I'm just like, everything I saw about Catra just made me go, my God, if my kids were in a relationship like that, I'd be telling them constantly, get away.
Right.
Don't do this to yourself. Like, find somebody who's going to be supportive and who's not going to make you feel like garbage at the end of the day,
And I will say I do agree now. Now that the show's over, looking back, I'm like, okay, yes, this is what they were all leading to. Was the Adora and Catra romance? But it that doesn't make it better. Like it's actually a detriment to the earlier seasons now. I think, like you said, to go through all that stuff and just to know, like, yeah, they're just building to so that they can get together at the end, and it's like, no, like I said, that kind of stuff belongs on a soap opera. Like that's and we keep getting told, this show's not for us. This show's not for us. It's for the kids. It's for the kids. Is it though? Like when
No.
your main storyline, looking back on it, is a toxic relationship that where they end up together, and you felt it in the season.
Mm-hmm.
It's the funny that Sean finished it. I'm sending him these messages like, "Hey, did you notice that they're really playing up like the Dora and
Yep.
Catra thing this season?" And
Yeah.
I'm like, they're not gonna go. Like, I can't believe like they're gonna like go there, And he's probably just sitting there laughing his butt off the whole time. Like, yeah, they're going there, buddy.
I I would like to at least say I tried my best not to let anything
He
slip until
didn't.
you got to see.
He
And I know
didn't.
there were times where I alluded to elements that might be one way or the other, but by that point I think you were like, I kind of know where this is going and stuff. But you were like, oh, I'm on the part one of this heart thing. I think I know where and like I think this is it, because there's no way they'd put another episode after a two-parter. It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
there you go.
But yeah, it's
So.
just it's disappointing that okay, you want to say that the old school fans' opinions don't matter because this is a show for kids, and yet your big story arc for kids is a toxic relationship where they end up together. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
just that's not right to me. That it should have been Adora's redemption, culminating in the battle with Horde Prime, um, for the sake of the universe. Like that,
Mm-hmm.
just make a good, compelling children's show. Like
Yeah.
that's all you needed. Um, the other thing I was surprised about, one last thing here, Queen Angela, she really died, huh?
Yeah, she really died.
I
And
really thought she was coming back by the end of this.
I was actually happy that they stuck something though. I was, because like her sacrifice in that one, I'll admit, like
Yeah.
when she sacrificed herself, I actually did have a couple tears watching that part. Cause I'm like, as a parent, that
Mm-hmm.
rang really true to me watching that. The whole, she's trying to protect her child, and she was the only one that could do that. Fine, that was great. And like I told you today, actually, one of the parts that got me emotionally even this season was Glimmer versus her father.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really, really nicely done moment, because I like that she basically does I learned how to love, and I knew, and she's like, I learned stubborn from you and all that. And she's just like walking through all that darkness to get at him to do her rune, sorcerer rune thing. And then boom. And the way they did that whole buildup and even wrote the dialogue there, that one just hit home for me. I was like, man, that was some good stuff. But yeah, I was really glad they didn't negate that death, because man, it's like, we're already having enough problems with some of this stuff, and then it's like, and now people are just coming back from the dead on top of this.
I was just surprised, because I don't know, I really thought that they were going to, But yeah, no, like I said, the whole final battle was good. The one outside of the Crystal Castle and everything. And even then, they never really explained the Crystal Castle. I mean, it's just, it's Light Hope. Light Hope didn't get her redemption arc. I mean, it's
no.
But Capture's good now.
Yeah, and that I can't help it. It just stinks to me of fanfic, no matter what I do right now. Like, it does. I don't.
That's what it felt like at the end. It's like, okay, we need to get this couple together, this couple together, this couple together, and this couple together. Check, check, check. All right, we're good.
Yeah, and I mean, there's been more than enough, like fan art pieces done that have alluded to people are hoping that would be how it all works out and all that stuff. And it's like, all right, fine, I get it. We're in that age and all that stuff, but I feel like
that's fine. Fan art's great.
Well, no, it is. But I feel like we're in an age where I don't want me as a person. Like, I was sitting there saying, this is how I'd like to see it done. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm right, you know? And it doesn't necessarily mean that serviced the story the way that it needed to. Like, when I went into Avengers Endgame, for instance, I said, here are the 3 things that I need out of this movie. And if they do these, I'm thrilled. The first one was I needed Cap to get his shield back. The second was I wanted to hear Cap say Avengers Assemble. And the third one was I really hope that Peggy and Steve got their dance because of how Captain America, the first Avenger, ended.
Sure.
I did not expect all 3 to win.
Right.
And how all that would play out. I figured at least Avengers Assemble was going to be the best I had going into that, because there's no way that you're going to do this and not have him at least say it once.
Right.
We've been waiting, So, it's like I went in with those hopes, but I wasn't projecting it to the point where it became fan art or all this other stuff. I just was like, please just do these things. That would be awesome. And it's like, they don't owe me anything. No. These are corporate entities. These are things that these are corporate controlled, and they have a way they want to see it done.
Absolutely.
And so in that way, this ending to me just kind of was like, it didn't do anything. It didn't do anything that made me feel like there was any other plan going into the season than we need to do that finale this way because we're giving the fans what they want. And I'm like, maybe the fans don't need what they want in certain circumstances. Maybe they need to have something that leaves a little more weight to them in a different way or whatever. And I mean, I don't know. That's just me, I think. And it's never going to be I'm not a fan of the actual implications or whatever you want to call it of that sequence. It's always just going to be like, like you said, it felt unearned. And there's just this element to it of, there's too many reasons why that moment should not have been a good moment. It just, there was too much toxicity to make me believe that was the right decision. So
looking back on it as a whole, and we only scratched the surface here, but I think we've hit most of our major points, our major issues. But looking back at the series as a whole, like I said, my big problem is just from beginning to end, you don't feel like anything's really changed. You don't feel like anything's really earned. Nothing even matters on a theory up until Horde Prime shows up. like because these villains just aren't villains in the right sense, and that's a problem across all media. They always want these sympathetic villains now, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you just need a real mean guy, like
Yeah.
um. So,
Uh,
for yeah, go ahead.
I'm also just getting a little tired of the villains saying they're going to rewrite reality and just destroy everything too,
That
because
too, yes, yes,
that was another. It was part of the ending of Ultron,
yep.
the legendary defender, and it was also part of again going back to Endgame.
Endgame, yeah.
I mean, for Christ's sake, that's what
Well,
Thanos said when he was fighting Tony and Cap and Thor.
it was part of Trolls World Tour. I mean, it's
That's
everywhere.
true too. Yeah, we just watched that one the other day.
Um, yeah. So, yeah. While I liked Horde Prime, I liked his clones and everything. He's at least a more legitimate threat than Hordax Evil Horde. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
but honestly,
I
yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I just want to say I really like the design of the clones in this.
Yeah, they
I
were.
was kind of surprised because I haven't been the biggest fan of a lot of the designs, but I actually the first episode when my daughter and I were watching that, I go, how do I not have a figure or two of those on my shelf right now? They actually
Yeah.
look really
No,
cool.
they were
Like
very Wraith-like.
mm-hmm,
The only thing I
mm-hmm.
will say is I do wish that they had stuck with the black-red traditional Horde color scheme. But beyond that, like, it worked.
Mm-hmm.
It's yes, we're getting there, Manny. He wants to know if it's going to be question time before he passes out.
Yes, it
So,
will be. We're
um,
sorry.
no, but honestly, looking back on the series as a whole, yes, there's some gems in here. There are some episodes I would gladly rewatch. There are some episodes we are going to discuss. So just because we kind of did this broad stroke thing, don't think that this is it for Netflix Shira for us. We will definitely dig in a little deeper like we normally do. It just with all the binginess, we had to kind of do this.
Yeah.
But I think after all this time, uh, rating on the whole series as a whole, from beginning to end, what you think, Sean?
I already thought of this one, and I think I'll have to give it a 7, honestly. And
Wow.
that's being a little liberal, but there's elements of it that still to this day I really want to go back and rewatch that I was impressed with, like the Hero episode, the
Sure.
Raz episode. They did some stuff where if it would have paid off, I really would have been like, wow, like holy crap, I wouldn't have figured they could have pulled it off without the He-Man connection.
Yeah.
And they would have had their own take on it. And there was still some good stuff here and there, but yeah, I can't go as low as 6 because they did do some things in the final season, like the new design of She-Ra and the sword design. I really thought was cool, and the Horde
Yeah.
Prime stuff. I actually was impressed, but
Yeah.
so
Series as a whole, from beginning to end, I just I gotta go with 3.
mm,
No, yeah, it's just there's
wow,
and
okay,
that's on me. I have so much personal stake in Shira, so many memories of Shira that there was just too much subverting. There was too much that I felt wasn't true to these characters. Like I said, there are these certain tent poles that every character has, and I felt too many of them were missing. Yeah, there. Like I said, there are some good episodes in there that I would definitely rank up. You know, eights, maybe even nines. But as a whole, from beginning to end, just the unnecessary changes, the snubbing the nose at the vintage fans. It takes it down for
hmm. Well, here's the other thing. Like, I think an asterisk could be put on my 7 for the simple
me.
fact. No, I'm not. I'm not trying to change it based on what
Yeah,
you just said. But the one thing I said to you today when we were talking is something that I have to actually use as a disclaimer here in my score,
hmm,
and it's just the simple fact that this to me will always be an Elseworlds tale. It will never
true.
be legit. Like the I don't think that the word reboot is the best way to describe what this show is. I think
Yes.
it is a sidestep And that's kind of why the 7 to me still works in that way, because if this was legit, okay, this is going to be a reboot of Filmation, and from the ground up, we're just going to, this is the She-Ra now. In the way that they said that technically, but I feel like the connection being severed does not equate to this being a full-blown, this is She-Ra, and this is encompassing part of the Masters and the Princesses of Power universes in that way. So it will always be like an Elseworlds tale of, now we get to see what it's like to have a new version of it.
Right.
But it to me was never a reboot, the way a reboot is done nowadays.
No, reboots should not be done like this again. Yeah, well, we'll just leave it at that. So, question time, Manny. You hung it. I can't believe you hung in on this one. To be honest with you, because I know how you feel about this show. So, but thank you.
Yeah,
we're hoping to get more of
Manny.
this. So, and Manny did say at one point there, I missed it, but he did say that he'd like to see more live shows, which. That's the idea. We, like I said, this one we didn't publicize too much because it was a test run. We wanted to make sure everything was good. We got next week is going to be Multiverse number 6. We're going to do that one live. You can join us.
And, a lot of endings.
Huh? A lot of endings.
A lot of endings.
We did
in the last 2 weeks.
We did a beginning, a new beginning.
Yeah, we did, and now here we are at the end of She-Ra. Next week's the end of Multiverse. It's like, we're just cleaning house here, people.
Absolutely.
This is crazy.
But yeah, so yes, we do hope to make this a regular thing. So hopefully, and all you audio listeners, one of these nights, if you're free when we're going on, come on over to YouTube, join us live. We will start publicizing this from here on because everything looked good tonight. I mean, everything on my end looks awesome. So, this one. So we got a couple questions tonight from Manny. Again, guys, if you have any questions, shoot us a private message. We'll throw a thread up usually a couple days before we record, or join us live in the chat room.
Mm-hmm.
So his first one is, in the 2000X series, what did you like about Snake Men, if anything? I liked mini eps, but I wasn't a fan of the snakes. Sean, how do you feel about the snakes?
I was one of those people where about halfway through season 2, I'm like, oh God, ditch this stuff. I was just after Zodak threw King Hiss off of the parapet of Grayskull, that was enough for me to go, I'm good. Let's tackle something else now. And nobody knew we were going to have the end of the series coming up.
Yeah.
So that already, it's like that's a sore spot for me going into that series is, oh, great. So we had to focus on the Snake Men the whole time.
We had a couple good.
No, I know, but it's just, I really would have rather see the Horde show up or do some more like in-depth mythology episodes with that series. I still think that the King Hiss actual look is really cool on that show. I like that. I like the rat lore, and I thought Tongue Lasher looked really cool in that version. I know there's people that don't like those the amped up versions, but I loved the overall designs. Cool. I just felt the story just kind of wore itself out for me after a while. But I won't lie. He-Man got to fight a giant snake at the end of that thing, and that was actually a hell of a cool way for He-Man to have to end that storyline, because that's the kind of stuff I was telling using my toys as a kid.
Right.
Like, he was going up against these ridiculous things, and that's why he's the most powerful man in the universe. He's the only one that can do this, and so I appreciated that.
No, I liked them overall. Yes, the season itself dragged a little bit in the middle there when you weren't sure what the Snake Men were doing. But I liked how King Hiss has a different tactic. He was very patient, very sneaky. He wasn't just a Skeletor clone, so that was nice. I liked how after their defeat at Grayskull there that they kind of regrouped and kind of literally went underground.
Yeah.
And, built up their power, and they accomplished their goals really before the heroes even knew what they were up to. Like,
Yeah.
so that was nice. I love the Awaken the Serpent. That is a great episode. It just would have been nice, like you said, to be a little shorter, a little less laggy. The designs look great though, and I love the army of Snake Men, where it wasn't just the core characters. You know, your
Agreed. Yeah.
generals. I like that they had all those other guys too. So um,
And they changed Man at Arms, which I thought was well. He changed everybody
yeah, well,
using the
Man
Serpent's
Arms,
Ring.
Tila, and Mechanic. Yep.
Yeah, and that was one of those moments that I really enjoyed because you didn't see a lot of that kind of stuff leading up to that point.
I still think a big problem with that season it was only a half season really at that. It wasn't even a full season two. We only got 13 episodes there.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the biggest thing about it is that it feels so Snakeman because they had to condense everything to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I like them. I don't hate them as much as Sean does.
They were for me when I was a kid. It always felt like they started the ideas were starting to come to an end because when you get to it, like here's an entire army. What are they? They're just snake people.
Yeah.
My imagination just went, that's it. Like the horde was like crazy, and then you're telling me just snake people, and I've always had that in my head no matter what. And
yeah,
I mean, we got Snake Armor He-Man. I enjoyed that, but
oh yes.
Yeah, so
And Manny agrees with you. He would have preferred they either went Horde or back to Skeletor as the main villain. So you and Manny are simpatico.
Well, there we go. We're finally are because I know there's times with Filmation where I don't sync up with him, so it's nice that we have a common ground. But I will say one of the things that I actually appreciated with King Hiss was he actually conquered Skeletor for a time.
It did.
You know,
oh yeah,
that was
the Rise
something.
The Rise 2-parter was amazing. That really got you pumped up for him.
That really was impressive because you didn't see many people get the one up on Skeletor very often on that show. And when that was happening, I love that whole he's fighting against it. You could just tell he's just like he's going to come back and he's just going to kill everything. And I'm like, that's my boy. That's Skeletor. That works. So
yeah. And then his second question, which Manny, there was a little bit of confusion on here, and I didn't even actually look at your questions until we were about ready to record, so I didn't have a chance to reach out to you. But you might be able to clear it up here. He asked, do you prefer Secret of the Sword or the Sword of She-Ra? As far as the Sword of She-Ra, are you referring to the Golden Book Sword of She-Ra, or are you referring to basically the individual episodes? Because I believe in that different intro for the first couple episodes before She-Ra is introduced, they call it the Sword of She-Ra. So we weren't quite sure. Sean did read the book, though. Well, Sean, what did you think of the book? While we're waiting.
Well, unfortunately I wasn't able to finish it, but I did get to the book, and I actually was really enjoying the Fred Carrillo artwork quite a lot. He's one of my favorites. So
oh yes,
I love his take on Masters, and I actually like that it is a more condensed version of Secret of the Sword. I know there's plenty of people that love Secret of the Sword, but even as a kid in the movie theater, I remember there were moments where I was getting a little bored because there were definitely feeling. I knew later on it was set up to be the 30-minute episode or 20-minute episodes that would have been separated out to tell throughout the week and introduce people to She-Ra. I had no idea that that's how the movie was made. So that's why at times I was sitting there going, they're using the transformation sequence a ton in this movie. And I'm somebody that doesn't complain about that normally. But even as a kid, I'm like, boy, they're using this a lot, you know? And so I'm one of those people where I've always felt, you know, a more concise version of that. And if I remember right, Matt once said that Larry DiTillio had a different idea of how he would have written it if he knew that's how they were going to write it compared to the way it was written. So far, I do like the Sword of She-Ra. I will say that, and it also it also has one. I agree with Matt. He said it earlier. It has one of the more iconic Earl Norham shots of She-Ra, and that the whole like the sorceress in the clouds, and it's like alluding to the Eternia aspect of her past and the Etheria version of herself now and all that. So it's definitely a gorgeous cover if that's what you meant. So yeah, it's not. Well, let's just cut out all that part of the show. We're done. Gotcha. All right. Hmm. Well, I guess then if we're going with it the other way around, phew, I don't even know. I don't have a good answer to that because I haven't watched them separately. But the one thing that I remembered when I was a kid, I saw it in the theater, and that was a big deal just because holy crap, it's a He-Man movie in the theater. But I'm just gonna say it, and people are gonna give me crap, I'm sure. I always felt like it just didn't have that theatrical vibe. Like I go to this all the time. You're going to hear it again. Transformers the movie adapted it in a way where it felt like it belonged on the big screen. The filmation way that they did it, I felt made me go, I should be watching this on my TV. And that's I know that now through you, but that's the problem to me. It's like I'd rather have. I think I would have probably enjoyed it better being at home and watching it that way. Because in the theater, I said this when you were gone. The theater, I remember watching it, and all I kept thinking was, "Man, they're using the transformation sequence a lot in this movie." And it just for some reason it didn't equate to being on the big screen. It felt like that was something I should be home seeing on a daily basis, and that's kind of why that excitement isn't there for me about that the same way as Transformers the movie, because that just went like, okay, we're gonna do different animation, we're gonna tell this story that's gonna blow kids' minds, and they're gonna stay in their bathrooms for months because they're scared and they're crying, so
I forgot to unmute my mic when I came back, so no one heard my answer. So yeah, so Manny was talking about the 5-parter, the individual episodes versus the Secret Sword theatrical cut, um, which I explained to Sean. He could hear me, no one else could.
uh-huh.
That yes, Filmation found out at the last minute that they're like, oh yeah, that She-Ra origin you're working on, we're gonna make it into a movie, and they're like, what? Because they only wrote it. They wrote it as 5 episodes, and they're like, okay, how do we splice this together?
Mm-hmm.
But for me, um, because I only saw it through the VHS, through the Secret of Swords, one of the 3 VHSs I owned as a child. I gotta go Secret of Sword every time. It's the way I remember it. It's a great movie, and I didn't see the individual parters until it had to have been DVD. So that's where I'm at. And Manny agrees with you again. The 5-parter was better because it offered more explanation, and it did have a cool intro. The first 3 episodes until she actually transformed. It's got like a whole different intro beyond the I am Adora.
Well, the other quick thing about that, because I actually remember that airing on like when I would tune in to watch He-Man and She-Ra when I was a kid. I remember going like, hey, wait a minute. This is the movie that my mom took me to go see. So that was the closest I got to like a VHS of it when I was a kid. I got to rewatch it for free on my TV for an entire week.
Right.
And it was like, that was that was amazing. Just the idea, like, holy crap, this is the same thing, but I get to watch it at home now. Like, like I was not used to, hey, you get to watch something more than one or two times or whatever because of how TV was set up back then.
Exactly. So, great questions, Manny, and they actually lead very well right into what I'm about to show off, which came this week. So let me make Sean tiny. There we go. Hi, Tiny. Hi, Tiny Sean.
Hello.
This actually came a few days. Well, I think it was right after we recorded last week, but I wanted to save it till today. It's actually the
storyboards or what?
No, it's the secret.
Oh, it's the posters.
Yeah,
the
general
the advertisement.
all-purpose ad slick. It's they would have used this to make up the ads at the theater, to run in the newspaper.
Yeah.
With the show times and everything. That's what it's the little ones down at the bottom there. Depending on how big of a yes, kids, back in the day used to look up the movie times in the newspaper.
Yep.
And when a movie first came out or was a popular movie, it had like a big ad slick like that with big color and everything and all the show times. And then once it's been out for a little bit, it would go down to one of those smaller ones. So this is an unused ad slick. April. Nice. Look at that right there. So this was April 30th, 1985. And my birthday was April 9th of 1985. So, like I said, She-Ra has been a part of Masters for my entire life now.
That's why when you wanted to do a podcast, you're like, I'm going to get this crusty old guy to join me because he just likes the savage stuff. That She-Ra thing, it's all like, oh, that's all axes with combs on it and all that stuff.
But here again, the way we met is I won a She-Ra piece from you.
I know. The irony does not cease to amaze me. Believe me on this. And actually, that's the thing. Like my first fan art that I've actually invested in, which I will show off when it arrives, is actually She-Ra. So go figure. I am the big. I anytime I deal with people, I will always say, "Hello, I'm the biggest hypocrite you'll ever meet." There you go. And I just, that's just me because I don't dislike She-Ra. I just feel like it could be done in a way where maybe I'm interested in it one of these days. But it like DC did it the closest so far with that Despera thing. So
I got one more thing to show off here. Dinosaur.
In that big box. I hope they paid a lot in shipping just for that.
This is a custom that I won from Kevin James Bro. Let's get that up there, and I'll put this down below too after we're done.
Grayskull.
Castle cool. Grayskull. He does a lot of vintage toy customs.
Okay.
Hand painted everything. This I actually won from him because he was doing like a giveaway for essential workers right now.
There you go.
As well as Manny working grocery store. So he. Oh my God, this is amazing, Sean. You're gonna love this.
Okay, what is it? What is it?
Hang on, there's lots of bubble wrap. So I had this Star Wars toy that I had lying around, and for years I thought, hey, that could make a cool Masters thing. And I sent it to him, and he really outdid himself. Oh my God, that's amazing. So we made a nice little merman fish custom here, which he really went to town on. Did I lose Sean? I think I lost Sean. We were doing so good there, too. Let me see if I can get Sean back. Sean, are you there? Yep, from deep end. Yep, but he really went above and beyond. He did some cool moss down there and everything. Yeah, hopefully Sean will get back to me here. Ah, the dangers of going live. But yes, it's a really cool custom. He did it. Some cool moss and stuff on the bottom there. Some glitter. I think the camera's picking that up a little bit there. He really outdid himself. Nice bloody teeth. Very cool. Thank you very much, Kevin. And like I said, I'm going to put that down in the description, all your info. If you need anything, go ahead and hit him up. Some very cool stuff. Give Sean another minute here to see if he can make it back on. If not, I'll end the show without him, but that'd be weird. Thanks for hanging in with us, guys. Nope. Doesn't look like we're going to get Shawnee back. Skype doesn't like it when you go too long, apparently. Manny asked what time and channel did He-Man and She-Ra come on for me. It was not on air that I remember growing up. All my stuff was from the VHS tapes. So, yep, that's all I had to go on. The video rentals from weekly from the store. So, other than that, no, I think I caught it on USA Network once at my grandma's house because she had cable, but I didn't stay over there a lot. Actually, I know I did because that's when I saw Reign of the Monster for the first time. But yeah, other than that, I never saw it on TV. Give Sean one more shot here, and then I'll shut it down. Alright, guys. Channel 5, the Power Hour. Yeah, I've heard about the Power Hours. I was too young, Manny. Not like you old guys. I never got to partake in that. Alright. Well, this is the time. I gotta do it on my own tonight. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Hope you all enjoyed it. We'll just say, check out our Facebook page. Check out Castle Grayskull Customs. And drop us a line. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what you liked, what you haven't liked, what's working for you. Join our Facebook page. Check out Sean's art. All that good stuff. Go read a book. Enjoy some vintage stuff. Go read Sword of Shira. That's a good vintage golden book. Very nice art. And until next time.